Aloha from Hawaii, just checking in post-race. It was a fantastic day, fantastic race. Congratulations to Patrick and all the other athletes, be it professional or age groupers who completed the race. Unfortunately, Bob wasn't available for a morning talk, so I'm stepping in his place to discuss everything Christian, position and aerodynamics and how we've been able to work with him. It's a no-brainer for us to do this off the back of the good reception and comments we received from the Gustav video we created last week in his Superman position. So I'm joined this morning by our CEO and co-founder, Eric DeGolier.
Good morning, Matt.
And myself, Matthew, Head of Sales and Marketing at Body Rocket. So Eric, talk to us about Christian. I know obviously the story with Gustav, but is it similar to Christian or is it slightly different?
Yeah, I mean, so they were running them through the same camps, but I think it is a different story because he had been so focused on the Olympics, and so we were getting him back on his TT bike for the first time in really it was almost a year I think since he'd done a race on it, and probably 2 years since he'd really focused or cared about it, trained on it quite a bit. So that was a big change, and we were definitely looking at this as an unprecedented thing, right? To take someone from the Olympics 10 weeks on and take them to Kona. I think the story changed real quickly, at least within the media, when he won Frankfurt, right? Then everybody was like, oh, he's a favorite. Well, he's actually still doing this huge change, and so that was it was an exciting project for us to work on. He had a huge training block to go through in that time to try to make that change. So to do all the aerodynamics in that block was really exciting, great opportunity for us. We were able to do some drastic changes. I think, as I mentioned in the Gustav video, our remit from Olaf was to get these guys out beyond their comfort zones, really start to push not just what's possible aerodynamically, but push the physiological changes because we had such a short period of time. Yeah. And so get them out beyond what their comfort zones were, and then dial them back to something that we thought was capable for race day. I haven't had a chance to catch up with both the guys afterwards now, and while Gustav was quite happy with his position, felt it had not affected his run off of the bike, Christian was questioning whether maybe it had been a bit too aggressive, or at least we hadn't had enough adaptation time. I think one of the things that happened that we didn't expect was we met him in Bergen in late August, did some of these big positional changes, but we weren't able to leave him with an adapter, and so he went on, raced Uzbekistan, got all the way to Flagstaff, was I think 5 weeks out from Kona before we got him with adapters on his bike that allowed him to start training all the time in the new position. So it was a really short adaptation time to get that done, and I think with the benefit of hindsight, it looks like we may have pushed him too much in pursuit of those gains. But at the same time, we knew the level was going to come up, and this is why we had this remit from Olaf. We knew the level had come up. There were a lot of good athletes. The aerodynamics of a lot of these athletes had come on. We knew that the bike was going to be fast. I don't think we anticipated that 7 people would go below the record. It was going to be that fast.
Incredible.
Yeah, but we knew it was going to be fast, and we knew that if they weren't aerodynamically competitive, that that was going to be a problem coming off the run as well. Yeah. And so, short period of time, had to take some risks. Those are the risks that we as a team chose to take. Went through 2 camps. We did Bergen, and then in Flagstaff, we're able to move away from some of the positional stuff. We got him, dialed back to what he felt was comfortable, and we started to go back into the suit training. We'd had a lot of success with Surpass on his Olympic suit, and we're going through that with the new Insane suit and getting those set up for him as well. And we also tested helmets, and we asked in the Gustav video if people had noticed or could find another difference between the two guys on race day. That difference was that Gustav had chosen to go with the new helmet that Giant has out, and Christian had chosen to go with the old one. And we saw very big gains with the new helmet with Gustav, but it was a wash between the new and old helmets with Christian, and so it just came down to that he actually had some difficulties with the drinking straw and the visor on it, and it just came down to with this knowledge we went with the one that there was no aerodynamic choice, so we went with the one that just had some other benefits to it. It was, again, a very short period of time. We would have loved to test things like bottle configurations. We could have done more on the suit. And then I think this is, where it would have been nice to have this knowledge for making the decision about what we would do for race day, more endurance testing, getting him out there on the system for several hours at a time, and watching his position, watching his power output, and understanding if he was really adapted to that position or not.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a very busy couple of months in preparation for Kona, and obviously the 2 training camps. But our work with Christian started well before Kona, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been working with the guys for several years. We actually started, got the contract to do the aerodynamics shortly before 2022 Kona. Didn't have the opportunity to make a huge impact there, and then we started sort of chasing them as they were moving to the Olympics after that. So this year was the year that we really got to get embedded in the team and spend a lot of time with them. We started actually last fall. We unveiled that we had a road bike for him, brought him into the wind tunnel because we at the time didn't have the ability to get him on this road bike. We showed him sort of a clunky prototype that we'd have ready for this year. So helped him with some wind tunnel testing there. That showed that we actually did all of his bar width changes there. That showed that he had very similar aerodynamics in the hoods and the drops. He prefers to be in the drops, and so for him that meant that he could ride the drops, but he could switch back and forth without much concern. And the first really big change, and sort of one of the benefits, the proof points of our system, was when we started working with him at the beginning of this year to look at all the stem changes we want to do with him, all the suit changes. We reran that test and were able to say, well, Christian, those wind tunnel results are correct, but only for the first 5 minutes. After that, your elbows start to straighten, your torso comes up, and your drag numbers start to come up. And we were able to then use some of our still in development video diagnostic tools to show him that in line with his drag numbers coming up, that we could overlay videos and show that his torso angle was actually coming up as well. So that was really good learnings. Gave him that insight to know that on race day, if he had hit the front for long periods of time, which in the Olympics he actually did, that he'd be better off in the hoods for those big pulls. And then from there we went on to working with Surpass on his clothing, and that was a project in itself. It wasn't just us and Christian on that one. We brought in Surpass, brought in Core, and Olaf was very instrumental. Olaf has quite a bit of aerodynamics background himself, and so that was a fantastic project where we managed to take another minute and a half, I think a little over 10 watts at race pace, just by changes to the aerodynamics in his suit. And it was a huge learning project. It's great learning curve for the whole team, and we definitely needed the whole team there. The first time we had them out, we were putting aerodynamic features on with adhesive, and they were peeling off. You had to figure out, in a wind tunnel, you can come with a sewing machine. The temperature is going to be consistent, the humidity is going to be consistent. Maybe stickers for quick aerodynamic feature changes work. That was not the case. That was not what we were finding out in the field, so we had to really learn how to develop suits in the field. And that's where you see, if you look back through Christian and Gustav's social media history, you'll see the gridded suits come out, you'll see suits with tufts on them come out, and this was just a reaction to us going, well, okay, we don't have some of the tools that you'd have in a wind tunnel. We're learning these new things about how they do over time, a much broader understanding of how they're functioning in the real world. Is the bike stable? Is it rideable? They're at full power output, but yeah, we had to then, like, how do you specifically dial into the aero bits? So yeah, we ended up figuring out new systems for aerodynamic features that can quickly get moved around on the suit, so we could do the tests, and then the grid work, so we knew where they were repeatable, and the tufts just to understand then how the flow was going around the body, how we were affecting that flow with some of the changes that we were doing.
Yeah, fascinating, and obviously great to see the Olympic project come to light, and obviously preparation for the Olympics, but also a lot of that learning and development going into Kona, and then obviously beyond now as well with their future plans. Obviously a lot of talk around adapting aerodynamics. Prior to obviously Christian working with Body Rocket, had he been to the wind tunnel with his road bike before?
Yeah, so that was what I mentioned. He did the one that we supported in the fall. And of course, he had been there for Tokyo and many times before. I think that's one of the exciting things about our work with Christian is we're making these huge gains on an athlete who already has it all. Like he's got access to wind tunnels, to CFD. He's got a team around him, and so for us to be able to make these changes has been huge.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I mean, I guess, can you share any specific examples where actually in the field testing has been able to provide insights beyond what the wind tunnel had previously been able to provide?
Yeah, I mean, I gave you the one already about his hand-eyes drops and hoods, and that was the one this year. When we met him, before we had any sort of a contract with him, we actually met in a wind tunnel so that we could show him how our system is validatable and equal to what's going on in the wind tunnel, but obviously out in the real world. And so while we were there, we watched him spend an 8-hour day building this custom cockpit. This was for the 2021 World Championships, which was actually early 2022. And so, I think it was 5 or 6 weeks later, we're watching him win the Ironman World Championships in St. George, and he's got an entirely different cockpit on his bike. So obviously we're very curious and asked him about that, and he'd said he got that bike, that cockpit, out into the real world, and it was so unstable he couldn't handle it in crosswinds. And so that's just one of these sort of false positive examples. Is that position fast? Yeah, it is fast, but it's not stable. And if you're doing that in a wind tunnel, in his case, he spent 8 hours that he lost on that, and with a position in a cockpit he couldn't ride. You don't get those sort of false positives when you're doing that testing out in the real world. And of course, you're not spending the time commitment. It's just integrated into your training. So we did ask him again how the new cockpit that he had on, how that compared, and he said, I haven't had time to go back to the wind tunnel. So I think that was 6 weeks later we had a contract to do his aerodynamics. So I think that was Christian didn't want to find himself in that position again, and I think we've done a really good job of doing that. We helped him avoid those. Obviously, we've brought in sort of some new challenges. How close to a race can you make these changes? How drastic can you do it? Certainly a step on, and so far we would say 10 weeks is too short to make a transition, but with those learnings, maybe it won't be too short next time.
Obviously, working with Christian for over the span of the year, obviously a lot of Christian fans are going to be tuning in, watching this video. Is there any through obviously having that real-time feedback, were there any outside the box ideas that Christian wanted to test? Bottles down the top, or any positions where he went, this is completely outside the ordinary, but I want to try because I've got the system. Can you divulge into some of those?
Well, we definitely done the bottles down the top thing, but not so much with Christian. Gustav's the inventor of the group, I'd say, and so there has been a handful of things. The one that showed up was the bottles under his arms of the very unique between the arm bottle carrier that Gustav had, and the rest are all things that you did not see in Kona, and so probably not things that we should be talking about yet. But, maybe in the next video.
Stay tuned. Obviously, I know you mentioned the Centaura project, and Christian obviously taking an innovative approach to the Olympic project in Kona. Obviously, working with Surpass, there was a new race suit that was being developed to be the most aero tri-suit on the market and on the field as well. Can you talk to us about what went into that process and what field testing led to unique elements of design being created?
Yeah, well, that was the project that I was talking about with the Olympic suits, and so you got the gridded suits that came out of that. We stayed entirely within the feature sets that Surpass was already working with on this one, but we were able to get some very big gains, like I said, about 1.5 minutes at race pace over 40K. And so just they have their turbulators, and moving those turbulators around, we found some additional gains. Obviously, there's been quite a bit of time in a wind tunnel. Is just, again, you have so much more time when you're able to do this on a regular basis. And you're not limited to X hours in the wind tunnel, but you can book out a week to work with an athlete integrated into their schedule. So it was changing some of the trip strips, some of the seams, and some of the turbulators on the suit to get those gains.
Perfect. Thank you for those insights, and I look forward to seeing more in the coming races. So this year with Christian, it's been a highly successful year. We've been able to show the real-time field-based aerodynamics. has proved a performance gain and been able to uncover adjustments that maybe traditional methods haven't been able to find. We've been able to validate wind tunnel results in actual field-based real-time scenarios. We were able to find additional adjustments to save watts through doing the field-based testing, and also demonstrated how athletes can, on the go and during their training blocks, without maybe needing to go to a wind tunnel, can still optimize their aerodynamics for a performance game. Unfortunately for Christian, the race didn't maybe go the way that he was expecting due to some of the stomach issues that he did face out on the course. However, the aerodynamic foundation that was adopted and was experimented with in the build-up through the training camps, not just for the Olympics but also for Kona, stayed strong, showing that obviously the body rocket system and data-driven approach held strong under race day conditions.
Yeah, I think, we've proved this year, because the system kind of came into its own. We proved what we wanted to show, and we've done it with a really high-level athlete. So we've had beta testers that are out doing very similar things this year, but to be able to take someone who's at the highest levels, who has access to, aerodynamic tools, wind tunnels, everything that they need, and to be able to make those sorts of gains just shows what's possible for everyone across the board. So, I think this is, our goal with Christian was to just say, look, whether you're competing at an elite level, at any level, Body Rocket can help you get to your personal best, can integrate into your training and racing. Doesn't have to be this distraction, which most people don't have the time or money to afford, but it can be integrated in the same way that power meter, power meters is integrated and becomes a functional part of your training. And that really just empowers you to focus on what you can control. I mean, the example with the helmets, the newest helmet, the latest helmet, is not always the best choice, and we see that across the board with things like over socks or calf guards, between the bottled on the jersey, or between the arms bottles. It doesn't work for everyone, and so to understand what's working for you and being able to put your time and energy and money into the things that are working for you is really possible with the Body Rocket system. So hoping that you were excited by what we've been doing with the guys and ready to come along on this journey with us.
Perfect. And I guess just to drop in there as well, obviously off the back of how we've worked with Christian and both Gustav, if this has spiked your interest, or you are looking to optimize your aerodynamics yourself in preparation for upcoming events or the future event season, or even if you're just looking to get faster and save watts and save time, we are now we've now launched, we have a pre-order campaign which is live on Kickstarter, which will run through to the middle of November, and I do currently have a Kona special since we are out in Hawaii, which instead of it being a £2,900 unit, it's actually, with the offer, £2,300. So we've attached the link to this video in the video below, or in the comment section below, so please do check us out, and if you do have any questions, please do reach out with us at matthew@bodyrocket.cc, and I'll be happy to get back to you to answer any questions that you might have.
Aloha.
Aloha.